Dispassion. The fruit of dispassion is illumination. The fruit of illumination is the stilling of desire. The fruit of stilled desire is experience of the bliss of the Atman, whence follows peace. The first steps are worthless unless the path be followed to the end. Dispassion, supreme satisfaction, and incomparable bliss must follow one another naturally. It is well known that the fruit of illumination is the cessation of suffering. A man may do many evil deeds through ignorance, but how can he continue to do evil when discrimination has been awakened within him? Illumination causes a man to turn away from the evil and the unreal. Attachment to these is the result of ignorance. Compare a man who knows what a mirage is with a man who is ignorant of its nature. The former turns away from it, the latter runs toward it to satisfy his thirst. The man of realization is no longer lured by the world of appearances, that is his evident reward. When the heart's knot of ignorance is cut right through, a man is freed from all craving for material objects. When this has happened, is there anything in the world which can possibly cause him to feel any attachment? When the objects of enjoyment fail to arouse any craving, that is perfect renunciation. When there is no longer any sense of ego, that is perfect knowledge. When the mind is absorbed in Brahman and no longer distracted by any other thought, that is perfect self-withdrawal. A man who remains continually absorbed in the consciousness of Brahman is freed from the tyranny of the objective world. The enjoyments with others find so irresistible he values as little as a small baby would, or a man who was sound asleep. When, at moments, he becomes conscious of this world, he looks upon it as a world of dreams. He enjoys the fruits of endless merit. Such a man is blessed indeed. He is esteemed on earth. The self-controlled man is said to be illumined when he enjoys eternal bliss. He is entirely merged in Brahman. He knows himself to be the unchangeable reality which is beyond action. Illumination. The state of illumination is described as follows. There is a continuous consciousness of the unity of Atman and Brahman. There is no longer any identification of the Atman with its coverings. All sense of duality is obliterated. There is pure, unified consciousness. The man who is well established in this consciousness is said to be illumined. A man is said to be free even in this life when B is established in illumination. His bliss is unending. He almost forgets this world of appearances. Even though his mind is dissolved in Brahman, he is fully awake, free from the ignorance of waking life. He is fully conscious, but free from any craving. Such a man is said to be free even in this life. For him, the sorrows of this world are over. Though he possesses a finite body, he remains united with the infinite. His heart knows no anxiety. Such a man is said to be free even in this life. Though he lives in the body, it seems merely like a shadow following him. He is no longer troubled by the thought of I and mine. Such are the characteristics of a man who is free even in this life. He does not care to delve into the past. He is not interested in scanning the future. He is indifferent to the present. That is how you may know the man who is free even in this life. Good and evil appear to exist in the world. Persons and objects seem to be distinct from each other. Nevertheless, he regards everything from the standpoint of equality, for he sees Brahman in all. That is how you may know the man who is free even in this life. Good or evil fortune may come. He regards them both with indifference and remains unaffected by either. That is how you may know the man who is free even in this life. Because his mind is continually engaged in tasting the bliss of Brahman, he is unable to distinguish between the internal and the external. That is how you may know the man who is free even in this life. Life flows by. He watches it like a disinterested spectator. He does not identify himself with the body, sense organs, etc. He has risen above the body. He has risen above the idea of duty. That is how you may know the man who is free even in this life. By the help of the living words of the scriptures, he realized his oneness with Brahman. He is no longer bound to rebirth. That is how you may know the man who is free even in this life. He never identifies himself with the body or the sense organs. He has no feeling of ownership. That is how you may know the man who is free, even in this life. Through his transcendental vision, he has realized that there is no difference between man and Brahman, or between Brahman and the universe. For he sees that Brahman is all. That is how you may know the man who is free, even in this life. Holy men and women may honor him. Evil men and women may insult him. His feelings are the same. That is how you may know the man or woman who is free, even in this life. Rivers flow into the ocean, but the ocean is not disturbed. Sense objects flow into his mind, but he feels no reaction, for he lives in this consciousness of the one reality. He or she is free indeed, even in this life. Yeah, I'm just adding the she and the women and stuff because, like, it's not only men, even though when he says that, I'm assuming he means women too, but, like, yeah, just to specify, spécialiser. Okay. He or she who breaking the dream. He or she who has known the reality of Brahman cannot continue to feel attachment to this world. He or she who feels attachment has not known Brahman. You know what? I'm just going to switch it to she because, like, why not? She remains deluded and sense-bound. Of a woman who has known Brahman, it cannot be said that she is still attached to sense objects because of the strong impressions and old habits of her past desires. No, her desires and tendencies are wiped out because she has realized her identity with Brahman. Even a very lustful woman feels no desire when she is in the presence of her father. In the same manner, a woman is freed from worldliness if she has realized Brahman, the infinite bliss. The scriptures declare that even the woman of meditation is conscious of the external world because of tendencies created by her former way of life. These tendencies are said to be working themselves out in her. As long as a woman experiences pleasure and pain, her past tendencies will persist. Every effect is preceded by a cause. Where there is no cause, there is no effect. When a woman wakes from her dream actions vanish into nothingness. When a woman wakes to the knowledge that she is Brahman, all accumulated causes, all past actions performed in the course of millions and millions of lives are dissolved away. While a woman is asleep, she may dream that she is doing good deeds or committing dreadful sins. But when the dream breaks, how can these dream actions lead her either to heaven or to hell? The Atman is forever free and pure and untouchable as the ether. She who has realized the Atman can never be bound by her actions, past, present, or to come. The ether enclosed within a jar is not affected by the smell of the wine. The Atman within its coverings is not affected by the properties of the coverings. The arrow will not stop. The disciple. I understand that after the attainment of illumination, no action can affect the Atman. But what about actions done before the dawn of knowledge? Knowledge cannot cancel their effects. An arrow shot at a mark cannot be turned aside. Suppose you mistake a cow for a tiger and shoot at it. The arrow will not stop when you discover that the cow is not a tiger. It will strike the cow. The Master. Yes, you are right. Past actions are very powerful if they have already begun to produce their effects. They must exhaust their power through actual experience, even in the case of an illumined soul. The fire of knowledge destroys the whole accumulation of present and future karmas, and of past karmas which have not yet begun to produce effects. But it cannot destroy those past karmas which have already begun to produce effects. However, none of these karmas can really affect those who have realized their identity with Brahman and live continually absorbed in that consciousness. Such men have become united with Brahman, the one beyond all attributes. The seer lives absorbed in the consciousness of the Atman. He has realized his identity with Brahman. Brahman is pure and free from the qualities which belong to the gross and subtle coverings. Past karmas belong to these coverings, therefore they do not affect the seer. When a woman is awake, she is no longer in bondage to the apparent world of her dreams. The woman who has awakened no longer identifies herself with her dream body, her dream actions, or the objects of her dream. She comes to herself happy simply by waking up. She does not try to maintain that the objects of her dream are real, nor does she seek to possess them. If she still pursues the objects of the dream world, then she has certainly not yet awakened from her sleep. Similarly, she who has awakened to the knowledge of Brahman lives absorbed in union with the eternal Atman. She sees nothing else. True, she has to eat, she has to sustain her body, as long as she lives in this world, but such actions are performed, as it were, from memory. They are like the remembered actions of a dream. Birth into a body is the result of karma. It may be said, therefore, that past actions only affect the body. The Atman is beginningless. It cannot be said to be born as a result of karma, and so it is unreasonable to think that karma can affect the Atman. The infallible words of the scriptures declare that the Atman is unborn, eternal, never subject to decay. How, therefore, can any karma be supposed to affect the woman who lives in the consciousness of the Atman? The accumulated causes due to past actions affect a woman who identifies herself with the body. The illumined soul that this identification is false. That is why she is not affected by such karma. It is foolish even to think that the accumulated causes due to past actions can affect the body. How can this body be real when it has only an illusory existence? How can something unreal have a birth? How can something die which has never been born? How can actions or their effects affect what is unreal? When knowledge drawns, I don't know what that means. When knowledge drawns, ignorance and the effects of ignorance vanish. The ignorant woman may ask, if that is so, how can the body of an illumined soul continue to exist? But when the scriptures say that the continuance of the body is caused by past actions, they are simply explaining things in a way which the ignorant can understand. They do not mean to prove the reality of the body and the other coverings from the standpoint of an illumined soul. Brahman is all. From the standpoint of the illumined soul, Brahman fills everything, beginningless, endless, immeasurable, unchanging, one without a second. In Brahman, there is no diversity whatsoever. Brahman is pure existence, pure consciousness, eternal bliss, beyond action, one without a second. In Brahman, there is no diversity whatsoever. Brahman is the innermost consciousness, filled full of endless bliss, infinite, omnipresent, one without a second. In Brahman, there is no diversity whatsoever. Brahman cannot be avoided, since it is everywhere. Brahman cannot be grasped, since it is transcendent. It cannot be contained, since it contains all things. It is one without a second. In Brahman, there is no diversity whatsoever. Brahman is without parts or attributes. It is subtle, absolute, taintless, one without a second. In Brahman, there is no diversity whatsoever. Brahman is undefinable, beyond the range of mind and speech, one without a second. In Brahman, there is no diversity whatsoever. Brahman is reality itself, established in its own glory, pure, absolute consciousness, having no equal, one without a second. In Brahman, there is no diversity whatsoever. The spiritual seekers, those great-hearted souls who have freed themselves from all cravings, casting aside sensual pleasures, tranquil and self-controlled, they realize the supreme truth of Brahman. They attain union with Brahman and reach the highest bliss. You too must discriminate and realize the supreme truth of Brahman. Realize the true nature of the Atman as the sum of all bliss. Shake off the delusions which your own mind has created. Thus you will become free and illumined. You will make your life blessed. Calm your mind utterly and attain samadhi. Then you will have open vision, seeing clearly the truth of the Atman. From the lips of your teacher, you have learned of the truth of Brahman as it is revealed in the scriptures. Now you must realize that truth directly and immediately. Then only will your heart be free from any doubt. How are you to know for certain that you are liberated from the bondage of ignorance and have realized the Atman, which is absolute existence, pure consciousness, and abiding bliss? The words of the scriptures, your own power of reasoning, and the teaching of your master should all help to convince you, but the only absolute proof is direct and immediate experience within your own soul. Bondage and liberation, satisfaction and anxiety, sickness and renewed health, hunger and so forth, these are matters of personal experience. You know yourself, others can only guess at your condition. Teachers and scriptures can stimulate spiritual awareness, but the wise disciple crosses the ocean of his ignorance by direct illumination through the grace of God. Gain experience directly. Realize God for yourself. Know the Atman as the one indivisible being and become perfect. Free your mind from all distractions and dwell in the consciousness of the Atman. This is the final declaration of Vedanta. Brahman is all, this universe and every creature. To be liberated is to live in Brahman, the undivided reality. Brahman is one without a second, as the scriptures bear witness. The disciple rejoices. The disciple listened attentively to the words of his teacher. He learned the supreme truth of Brahman. The disciple learned attentively to the words of her teacher. She learned the supreme truth of Brahman, to which the scriptures bear witness, and confirmed it by aid of his own reasoning powers. She then withdrew her senses from the objective world and concentrated her mind upon the Atman. Her body appeared as immovable as a rock. Her mind was completely absorbed in the Brahman. After a while, she returned to normal consciousness. Then, out of the fullness of her joy, she spoke. The ego has disappeared. I have realized my identity with Brahman, and so all my desires have melted away. I have risen above my ignorance and my knowledge of this seeming universe. What is the joy that I feel? Who shall measure it? I know nothing but joy, limitless, unbounded. The ocean of Brahman is full of nectar, the joy of the Atman. The treasure I have found there cannot be described in words. The mind cannot conceive of it. My mind fell like a hailstone into that vast expanse of Brahman's ocean. Touching one drop of it, I melted away and became one with Brahman. And now, though I return to human consciousness, I abide in the joy of the Atman. Where is this universe? Who took it away? Has it merged into something else? A while ago I beheld it, now it exists no longer. This is wonderful indeed. Here is the ocean of Brahman, full of endless joy. How can I accept or reject anything? Is there anything apart or distinct from Brahman? Now, finally and clearly, I know that I am the Atman, whose nature is eternal joy. I see nothing, I hear nothing. I know nothing that is separate from me. I bow down to you, O great soul, my master. You are free from all attachment, the greatest of the wise and the good. You are the embodiment of eternal bliss. Your compassion... There's a few mistakes in this book. Your compassion is infinite, a sea without a shore. Your eyes are full of mercy. Their glance is like a flood of moonbeams, refreshing the weariness of my mortality, the pain of my bondage to human birth and death. In one instant, by your grace, I have found this inexhaustible, undivided treasure, the Atman, the ever blissful. I am blessed indeed. I have achieved life's only purpose. The dragon of rebirth can never seize me now. The infinite is mine. I recognize my true nature and eternal joy, and all this through your mercy. Nothing binds me to this world. I no longer identify myself with the physical body or the mind. I am one with the Atman, the undying. I am the Atman, infinite, pure, eternal, at peace forever. I am neither he who acts, nor he who experiences the result of action. I am beyond action and am changeless. My nature is pure consciousness. I am absolute reality, eternal goodness. It is not I who see, hear, speak, act, suffer, or enjoy. I am the Atman, eternal, ever-living, beyond action, unbounded, unattached, nothing but pure, infinite consciousness. I am neither this object nor that. I am that which makes all objects manifest. I am supreme, eternally pure. I am neither inward nor outward. I am the infinite Brahman, one without a second. I am reality, without beginning, without equal. I have no part in the illusion of I and you, this and that. I am Brahman, one without a second, bliss without end, the eternal, unchanging truth. I am the Lord and refuge of all. I am the destroyer of all sins and impurities. I am pure, indivisible consciousness. I am the witness of all things. I have no other Lord but myself. I am free from the sense of I and mine. I dwell within all beings as the Atman, the pure consciousness, the ground of all phenomena, internal and external. I am both the enjoyer and that which is enjoyed. In the days of my ignorance, I used to think of these as being separate from myself. Now I know that I am all. In myself is the ocean of joy, infinite, undivided. The wind of Maya plays over it, creating and dissolving the appearances of this world like waves. Mistaking the appearance for the reality, people ignorantly imagine that I am enclosed within a bodily and mental form. In the same way, they imagine time, which is indivisible and continuous, to be divided into cycles, years, and seasons. But no matter what the imagination of deluded and ignorant fools may superimpose upon the reality remains untainted. The mighty river of water in the mirage cannot wet the dry desert. Like the ether, I cannot be tainted. Like the sun, I am other than objects I reveal. Like the mountain, I stand immovable. Like the ocean, I am boundless. The sky is not confined by its clouds. I am not confined by the body. How, therefore, can I be affected by the states of waking, dreaming, or dreamless sleep? They are merely bodily conditions. My outward form comes and goes. It acts and tastes the fruits of its actions. It withers and dies, but I remain, like a great mountain, firm and immovable forever. I know neither desire nor the ending of desire, for I am the same always, incapable of division. How can any action be possible for the one who is eternal, universal, complete, and infinite as the sky? What should he strive for? I am without organs, without form, without mind. I am untouched by change. I am the undivided, blissful consciousness. How can I become involved in action, either righteous or sinful? Therefore, the scriptures declare that the Atman remains equally untouched by good and by evil. A man is other than his shadow. No matter what touches his shadow, hot or cold, good or bad, he remains completely untouched. The properties of the objects observed do not affect the witness who stands apart from them, without attachment. In the same manner, the properties of a room do not affect the lamp which reveals them. The sun witnesses actions, but is distinct from them. The fire burns all things, but is distinct from them. The rope is mistaken for a snake, but remains a rope. So also I, the unchanging Atman, the pure consciousness, am distinct from the seeming form. I neither act nor make others act. I neither experience nor make others experience. I neither see nor make others see. I am the Atman, self-luminous, transcendent. The sun is reflected upon water. Water moves, and the fool thinks that the sun is moving. The Atman is reflected upon the physical and mental bodies. The bodies move and act, and the fool thinks, I act, I experience, I am killed. This body may drop dead in water or on land. I am not affected by that. The ether in a jar is not affected when the jar is broken. To act or to enjoy, to be dual-witted or cunning or intoxicated, to be free or in bondage, all these are transient conditions of the intellect. They have nothing to do with the Atman, which is Brahman, the Absolute, the one without a second. Let the Maya undergo 10, 100, 1,000 transformations. What do they matter to me, who have no part in them? Can a cloud stain the sky? This whole universe, from Maya down to the outward physical forms, is seen as a mere shadow of Brahman. I am that Brahman, one without a second, subtle as ether, without beginning or end. I am that Brahman, one without a second, the ground of all existences. I make all things manifest. I give form to all things. I am within all things, yet nothing can taint me. I am eternal, pure, unchangeable, absolute. I am the Brahman, one without a second. Maya, the many-seeming, is merged in me. I am beyond the grasp of thought, the essence of all things. I am the truth. I am knowledge. I am infinite. I am absolute bliss. I am beyond action, the reality which cannot change. I have neither part nor form. I am absolute. I am eternal. Nothing sustains me. I stand alone. I am one without a second. I am the soul of the universe. I am all things, and above all things. I am one without a second. I am pure consciousness, single and universal. I am joy. I am life everlasting. Ever and ever again I salute you, most noble Lord, my Master. By the supreme majesty of your grace, I have found this blessed state. I am ruler of the kingdom of myself. Until now, I have been dreaming. In my dream, I wandered through the forest of illusion from birth to birth, beset by all kinds of troubles and miseries, subject to reincarnation, decay, and death. The tiger of ego attacked me cruelly, without ceasing. Now, by your infinite compassion, O Master, you have wakened me from my dream. You have set me free forever. Salutations to you, O great Master. You are one with Brahman. You are one with the shining light that casts this shadow of a world. The crest jewel. The worthy disciple has found the joy of the Atman in Samadhi and awakened forever to consciousness of reality. Now he prostrates himself before his great Master. The Master, glad at heart, speaks to him again in the following memorable words. Our perception of the universe is a continuous perception of Brahman, though the ignorant man is not aware of this. Indeed, this universe is nothing but Brahman. See Brahman everywhere, under all circumstances, with the eye of the spirit and a tranquil heart. How can the physical eyes see anything but physical objects? How can the mind of an enlightened man think of anything other than the reality? How could a wise man reject the experience of supreme bliss and take delight in mere outward forms? When the moon shines in its exceeding beauty, who would care to look at a painted moon? Experience of the unreal offers us no satisfaction, nor any escape from misery. Find satisfaction, therefore, in the experience of the sweet bliss of Brahman. Devote yourself to the Atman and live happily forever. O noble soul, this is how you must pass your days. See the Atman everywhere, enjoy the bliss of the Atman, fix your thought upon the Atman, the one without a second. The Atman is one, absolute, indivisible. It is pure consciousness. To imagine many forms within, it is like imagining palaces in the air. Therefore know that you are the Atman, ever blissful, one without a second, and find the ultimate peace. Remain absorbed in the joy which is silence. This state of silence is a state of entire peace in which the intellect ceases to occupy itself with the unreal. In this silence, the great soul who knows and is one with Brahman enjoys unmingled bliss forever. To the man who has realized the Atman as his true being, and who has tasted the innermost bliss of the Atman, there is no more excellent joy than the state of silence, in which all cravings are dumb. No matter what he is doing, walking, standing, sitting, or lying down, the illumined seer whose delight is the Atman lives in joy and freedom. When a great soul has found perfect tranquility by freeing his mind from all distracting thoughts and completely realizing Brahman, then he no longer needs sacred places, moral disciplines, set hours, postures, directions, or objects for his meditation. His knowledge of the Atman depends upon no special circumstances or conditions. In order to know that a jar is a jar, are any special conditions required? Only that our means of perception, the eyes, shall be free from defect. This alone reveals the object. The Atman is eternally present. It is revealed by transcendental experience, which is not dependent upon place, time, or rituals of self-purification. I do not require any special condition or proof in order to know that my name is Devadatta. Similarly, for a knower of Brahman, the knowledge that I am Brahman does not require any proof. The Atman, shining with its own light, causes this apparent universe. But how can anything in this universe reveal the Atman? Apart from the Atman, these appearances are worthless, bodiless, unreal. The Vedas, the Puranas, all scriptures, and all living creatures only exist because the Atman exists. How then can any of them reveal the Atman, which is the revealer of everything? This Atman shines with its own light. Its power is infinite. It is beyond sense knowledge. It is the source of all experience. He who knows the Atman is free from every kind of bondage. He is full of glory. He is the greatest of the great. The things perceived by the senses cause him neither grief nor pleasure. He is not attached to them, neither does he shun them. Constantly delighting in the Atman, he is always at play within himself. He tastes the sweet, unending bliss of the Atman, and is satisfied. The child plays with his toys, forgetting even hunger and physical pain. In like manner, the knower of Brahman takes his delight in the Atman, forgetting all thought of I and mine. He gets his food easily by begging alms, without anxiety or care. He drinks from the clear stream. He lives unfettered and independent. He steeps without fear in the forest or on the cremation ground. He does not need to wash or dry his clothes, for he wears none. The earth is his bed. He walks the highway of Vedanta. His playmate is Brahman, the everlasting. The knower of the Atman does not identify himself with his body. He rests within it, as if within a carriage. If people provide him with comforts and luxuries, he enjoys them and plays with them like a child. He bears no outward mark of a holy man. He remains quite unattached to the things of this world. He may wear costly clothing or none. He may be dressed in deer or tiger skin or clothed in pure knowledge. He may seem like a madman or like a child or sometimes like an unclean spirit. Thus he wanders the earth. The man of contemplation walks alone. He lives desireless amidst the objects of desire. The Atman is his eternal satisfaction. He sees the Atman present in all things. Sometimes he appears to be a fool, sometimes a wise man, sometimes he seems splendid as a king, sometimes feeble-minded. Sometimes he is calm and silent. Sometimes he draws men to him, as a python attracts its prey. Sometimes people honor him greatly, sometimes they insult him. Sometimes they ignore him. This is how the illumined soul lives, always absorbed in the highest bliss. He has no riches, yet he is always contented. He is helpless, yet of mighty power. He enjoys nothing, yet he is continually rejoicing. He has no equal, yet he sees all men as his equals. He acts, yet is not bound by his action. He reaps the fruit of past actions, yet is unaffected by them. He has a body. I kind of forgot to do the she and stuff. Yeah, I'm only going to do it if I actually remember. But she has no equal, yet she sees all men as her equals. She acts, yet is not bound by her action. She reaps the fruit of past actions, yet is unaffected by them. She has a body, but does not identify herself with it. She appears to be an individual, yet she is present in all things, everywhere. The knower of Brahman, who lives in freedom from body consciousness, is never touched by pleasure or pain, good or evil. If a woman identifies herself with the gross and subtle coverings within which she dwells, she will experience pleasure and pain, good or evil, but nothing is either good or evil to the contemplative sage, because she has realized the Atman, and her bonds have fallen from her. During a solar eclipse, the sun is hidden by the moon. The ignorant who do not understand what has happened say that the sun has been swallowed up by a demon. But the sun can never be swallowed up. In the same manner, the ignorant see the body of a knower of Brahman and identify him with it. Actually, he is free from the body and every other kind of bondage. To him, the body is merely a shadow. He dwells in the body, but regards it as a thing apart from himself, like the cast-off skin of a snake. The body moves hither and thither, impelled by the vital force. A log of wood is carried by the river to lower or to higher ground. His body, carried by the river of time, enjoys or suffers the effects of past actions. In past lives, while he still dwelt in ignorance, he created certain karmas. In this present life, he apparently enjoys or suffers their effects, but now he has reached illumination and no longer identifies himself with the body. His body moves among external objects, and he seems to enjoy or suffer the effects or past deeds, just like a man who is still ignorant. Really, however, she is established in Brahman and merely inhabits the body as a calm, detached onlooker. Her mind is clear of all distraction and unmoved like the pivot of a wheel. She neither directs her senses toward external objects, nor does she withdraw them. He stands like an onlooker, unconcerned. She does not desire the reward of his actions, for she is intoxicated by the Atman, that nectar of pure joy. She who renounces the pursuit of any aim, either in this world or even in heaven itself, and remains absorbed in the Atman, is indeed the Lord Shiva herself. Whatever. She is the excellent knower of Brahman. Even though she dwells in the body, she is eternally free. She has reached the blessed goal. She is the excellent knower of Brahman. When the body falls from him, he comes merged in Brahman. She attains Brahman, the one without a second. An actor remains the same person, even when dressed to play a part. The excellent knower of Brahman always remains Brahman and nothing else. When an illumined soul has attained oneness with Brahman, his body may wither and fall anywhere, like the shriveled leaf of a tree. What does it matter? For he has already freed himself from body consciousness, burning it away in the fire of knowledge. The illumined soul lives eternally conscious of his oneness with Brahman. He tastes continually the joy of the Atman, the one without a second. In putting off this garment of skin, flesh, and bone, he does not have to consider if the place, the time, or the circumstances are suitable. To be rid of the body is not liberation. Nor is a man set free by external forms of renunciation. Liberation is the cutting of the knot of ignorance in the heart. Does a tree gain or lose anything because its leaf falls in a ditch and not in a river, or in sacred ground rather than an open field? The destruction of the body, the sense organs, the life breath, and the brain is like the destruction of a leaf, a flower, or a fruit. But the Atman, like the tree, still stands. The Atman is not affected, it is the real self, the true being, the embodiment of joy. The scriptures define the Atman as pure consciousness, thereby showing that it is the eternal truth. Only the outer coverings die. They are made of ignorance, concealing the Atman. In truth, say the scriptures, the Atman is immortal, thereby showing that it stands indestructible among the things that change and perish. Stones, trees, grass, grain, Straw, cloth, and all other substances, when burnt, are reduced to ashes. The body, the senses, the vital forces, the mind, and all other physical manifestations, when burnt by the fire of knowledge, become Brahman. Darkness is merged in sunlight, its opposite. So also this apparent world is merged in Brahman. When the jar is broken, the ether within it becomes one with the surrounding ether. When the coverings are destroyed, the knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. When milk is poured into milk, oil into oil, water into water, they blend in absolute oneness. So also the illumined seer, the knower of the Atman, becomes one with the Atman. He who has become liberated in this life gains liberation in death and is eternally united with Brahman, the absolute reality. Such a seer will never be reborn. He knows that he is one with Brahman and has burnt the coverings of ignorance in the fire of this knowledge. Thus he has become Brahman. How can Brahman be subject to birth? Similarly, both bondage and liberation are the fictions of our ignorance. They do not really exist in the Atman, just as a piece of rope remains rope whether or not we mistake it for a snake. The imagined snake does not really exist in the rope. People speak of bondage and liberation, meaning the presence or absence. People speak of bondage and liberation, meaning the presence or absence of the covering veil of ignorance. But in reality, Brahman has no covering, for there is none other than Brahman, the one without a second. If there were a covering, Brahman would not be unique. The scriptures admit no duality. Bondage and liberation exist in the mind only, but the ignorant attribute them falsely to the Atman itself, just as they say the sun is darkened when it is merely covered by a cloud. But Brahman, the one without a second, the unchangeable reality, remains unattached. It is pure consciousness. To imagine that the Atman can be bound or liberated is false. Both bondage and liberation are states of mind. Neither of them can be attributed to Brahman, the eternal reality. Therefore, both bondage and liberation are fictions of ignorance. They are not in the Atman. The Atman is infinite, without parts, beyond action. It is serene, stainless, pure. How can one imagine duality in Brahman, which is entire like the ether, without a second, the supreme reality? There is neither birth nor death, neither bound nor aspiring soul, neither liberated soul nor seeker after liberation. This is the ultimate and absolute truth. Today I have revealed to you the supreme mystery. This is the inmost essence of all Vedanta, the crest jewel of all the scriptures. I regard you as my own daughter, a true seeker after liberation. You are purged of all the taints of this dark age, and your mind is clear of desire. Hearing these words of her master, the disciple prostrated herself before him with a reverent heart. Then, with his master's blessing, she went her way, set free from the bondage of ignorance. The master also went his way, bringing purity to the whole world, his mind immersed in the ocean of absolute existence and joy. In this dialogue between master and disciple, the true nature of the Atman has been set forth in a manner which seekers after liberation may easily understand. May those spiritual aspirants who seek liberation, who have cleansed themselves of all the heart's impurities by the performance of selfless work, who are averse to worldly pleasures, who delight in the words of the scriptures, whose minds have entered peace, may they hospitably welcome this salutary teaching. And to those who ignorantly wander the desert of this world, treating the circle of death and rebirth, weary, thirsty, and oppressed by hot misery, as if by the sun's fierce rays, may this teaching reveal Brahman, the one without a second, the giver of delight, the ocean of nectar which is spread before our very feet. May this teaching of Shankara bring success to their efforts and lead them to liberation. The next video, I will be just reading questions and answers. All right.